Welcome to Punishing Distance. We're here having chats, talking about a few things, nice, safe, YouTube-friendly topics, if we're capable of it. Let's see.
Nice punishing topics.
Punishing topics. It's four guys. Nick's over there on the couch. Say hi, Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Wadey's here to my screen left. Yeah, screen left, won't it, that? Daryl's here to my screen right.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet y'all.
What happened to the YouTubers sort of start?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, like
My
and
name's
subscribe.
Daryl Pie.
Don't forget to hit that bell.
Like and subscribe. No, not notifications. Do you know what? I never tell people to put notifications on. That's the next level for me. I just want to subscribe. Just subscribe,
just sub.
and if anything
And
ever,
dislike.
anything
Sub and dislike.
yeah. If anything gets suggested, then just watch it. But I always feel like putting the bell. I always find when people say put the bell on, I'm like. I don't really need notifications for your videos. Trust me, if I want to watch, I'll find them.
Yeah.
I'll subscribe for you, but I ain't hitting that bell. I don't think I've ever hit that bell on anybody.
So you heard the man hit the bell.
Darryl wants you to hit that bell.
All for the algorithms, man.
So, guys, what do we want to open with? What are we? What games are we playing? Wade, have you been playing games recently?
I'm not really recently, but I suppose Legends Arceus I was, but then Subnautica is.
Did you say Arceus or Arceus?
Yeah, both. I've flipped between. It depends on what I'm sometimes what conversation I'm having. But yeah, I said Arceus, but yeah, I have said Arceus, yeah, but Arceus, Legends Arceus, yeah.
What did they say in the anime?
Arceus, I think.
Is it? Yeah. No, I still haven't played that new Pokemon game. It's really
good.
Is it? Yeah. I think it's from what I've heard, it's the game that I've been waiting for.
Yeah, in some way, yeah, many ways, yeah. Not perfect, like, but yeah.
I've just I think I did Pokemon hard phrasing. I did Pokemon for so long. I kind of got burnt out of it when Sword and Shield were good, but I don't know. I think when I got the PS5, I really lost interest in the Switch. Honestly, I don't know if I've turned my Switch on since I got a PS5.
Yeah, I haven't got the PS5 yet.
Do you reckon that is the novelty? PS5 graphics improvements or what?
I don't know. The Switch games aren't really, but they're always about something different anyway, aren't they? Like, you know what I mean? It's
the nostalgia.
Zelda, yeah. And Zelda Breath of the Wild's graphically amazing. Like, but it's still different than what the graphics are on PlayStation. You know what I mean? Still cartoony, amazing. You know what I mean? It's still got that sort of.
It's not trying to compete with Xbox and PlayStation. It's doing it's got its own little thing.
Yeah.
You know. What are you playing, Daryl?
No Man's Sky, I'm completely absorbed by it when I've played it. I mean, I have been on the Quest 2 quite a lot. Interesting. Can be expensive. Like the Quest itself, having it as a standalone headset, no wires, good novelty at first. It is a good long-standing way of playing because you don't have to be tied to one spot in the room. Do you know what I mean? But unfortunately, that's a reasonable price for the headset, but the games can be quite pricey.
Really?
Not just the point of PS5 price, like 60 quid, but you're talking 16.99, which doesn't sound like much, but you've got to remember the Quest have got basically a Android inside. So for the graphics you'll be getting from an Android game, you get on the Quest really. Even though it's a VR experience, it's not PC VR level of entertainment. But yeah, I've enjoyed it still.
I haven't really done any VR yet.
Yeah, no, I'm waiting. I feel like it's not. Yeah, no, I've played a couple of things that are good, and I've got a few the VR arcade machines, lads. You know what I mean? So that you can try a few different things. But a couple of games just have stood out, and that's really. But I'm quite disappointed by a lot I've seen on VR. I don't know if it's just me, but
I enjoy it. I think you have to pick your games to your actual interests rather than just what's popular. That's my advice if you go look into any VR experience. But I picked, strange as it sounds, mini golf. I get so much out of that game. It's just very serene, very nice.
I think I can't half-arse it. I think I'm going to do VR. I want to be on a running machine. I want to be on a treadmill. I want a full body. Do you know what I mean? I want if I'm going to VR, I want a VR. That's what it is. Yeah, I can't half-arse it. I think.
Yeah,
I think it's just a big tally.
Yeah,
pretty much.
But speaking of which, I need a big TV there. You know what I mean? That's going to be the next thing, I think. Right on that back wall, so we've got a big... What do you think size-wise? Do you think 60 would do it, or only bigger?
Yeah, minimum. But anything, yeah,
it's got to be 60.
Well, what about a projector?
Yeah, a projector would do, but you're not getting like even like 1080, are you?
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to
Just
get the
a big-
resolution,
just an
especially
aspect
for
wall,
gaming
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
You know, like if we were sitting here and just watching something, like watching like a boxing match, a projector would be cool, but not for gaming. Do you know what I mean?
Probably lose a
Is
lot of depth.
that what it's for? Yeah, no, is it it's fair dues?
I mean, yeah, pretty
No,
much.
sweet,
Yeah,
sweet.
you weren't very clear what you wanted it for, to be honest.
Well, no, it is a gaming room, I suppose. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll be honest with you.
But I thought maybe it was another tally, a wall tally. You wanted do stuff on, and that was still for gaming.
Yeah, see,
So I've got like 5 tallies in my little gaming sort of bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they've got that one at the back that's the sort of with all the gun machines plugged in, and I've got my normal tally with my PlayStation plugged in, and I've got a couple of little ones for like Sega Mega Drives and SNESs, which are like old school tallies. You know what I mean? Like 30-year-old tallies.
Yeah, you got your own little arcade set up.
Yeah, a little collection.
No, I think with the VR thing, I'm kind of holding out to see what Apple do.
Yeah.
I've heard rumblings that Apple are going to be announcing their VR, whether it's going to be glasses,
Yeah.
it's going to be, you know, I'm kind of waiting because I'm all Appled up with devices,
Yeah.
you know, but then there's a new PSVR coming out as well. But I don't know if I could really get into VR.
I can't. Honestly, it needs to be the Matrix for me. I think. I think I need to be plugged into a machine. I can't do it. It's not an idea. I can't put an headset on and it'd be that. I don't know.
I've played one game on the Quest 2, which was linked up to a mixed laptop, and it was Half-Life Alyx.
I do want to play
That's
that.
the closest I've been to an immersive VR experience I've ever had. And people, if they've played the game, watching this,
But I think
it's really cool.
you know, Wade wants to be in a room, being able to run.
Yeah, it needs to be the whole thing.
Oh, yeah,
man.
I
It needs to
get
be in
that.
a space like on a running machine and everything. But even that, I'd think I don't know if that's going to be enough.
But that's kind of like an experience more than everyday gaming.
Yeah,
I think we're a long way off people having a VR room.
Yeah, in their own, especially personally. I've seen some really impressive, like running machines and belt systems. So you're stuck on, and even extensions now for the different arm systems. And
Are you okay?
I'll be it quietly in the office. Go on, mate. Sorry.
no, on full suits. No, the games. So there's some really good setups. Obviously, it costs a lot of money put together. But I don't know. I'd have to use them. I suppose just the little bit I have. Like I said, there was one. I remember saying he was sitting in the car and you'd open the door and shoot behind you. It was good. It was. I just was sat there. If I think I'm going to do VR, I want to be able to run around as well and stuff. I want to be able to do the whole thing. I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get it.
I remember watching a video of Ronnie O'Sullivan using a VR headset playing snooker. And he got that into it, man. He tried to put his hand down on the table, and the table wasn't there, and he just went flat first, man.
Really?
So it is submersive.
Was he still good in VR?
I can't remember. Yeah, I imagine so.
Yeah.
I just remember the clip of him falling over more than anything.
Yeah, I suppose it's just angles, regardless of
Yeah,
whether it's VR
no,
or
so it
real
should
life.
be. But he proper obviously felt he was playing pool because he put his hand on a table and fell over.
You can trick your brain quite easily.
Yeah,
You wouldn't think it would, but I was playing Population 1, which is the VR version of Fortnite, I guess you could call it. And there's a bit where you jump off on the training thing, and it says put your arms out to glide.
Yeah.
And I did it, and my brain fucked up. Like it tripped over itself. It was like you're standing, you're stationary, but you're moving. And it really freaked me out for a second. And then it clicked back in again. Everything was normal again, but it really tripped me out.
Did you have any Go on, Ray.
I get that with 3D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, does anybody get they say motion sickness is quite common with VR, don't they? Did you get that?
It is. If you can move your controllers in one way and look the other way, you can really fuck with your head.
Really?
Yeah,
That sort of stuff puts me off as well. Being stood in the middle of your living room with a headset on, swinging your arms around, getting trippy, falling over, crashing your head on. It's just you need. For me, that's why I can't half-arse it. It's always got to be all or nothing. There's got to be a room I go into and strap myself in for VR. I can't imagine just being stood in my living room,
Do you know
just
what I can
swinging blindly into me around at things, my possessions. I can't.
I'm not saying that. I think one thing that I could see VR being really cool for is socialising. Because I could imagine...
Meta, was that? Facebook?
Yeah, having the whole metaverse thing. I could imagine having, the headset on and us all being in our own homes, but having this conversation in a virtual world.
Yeah.
Like
I can kind of imagine
on a beach or on the side of a mountain or something.
Yeah, I can imagine that a little bit more. But then I don't know whether my senses would let me get immersed enough into it. I think there would always be that thing that it's not real. I think for me, I'd need, where if they're saying that the metaverse is Web3, I don't think I'd be able to embrace it properly until it's Web4, which is some kind of neural implant.
Yeah.
Something that makes your brain actually feel like it's there.
Well, I was going to mention Neuralink.
What is Apple's stint on creating this new product that they're doing? What's the
VR.
idea behind that?
I mean, it's just that it's their input into this whole kind of VR space. It's just the Apple version of the PlayStation VR, the Quest 2, and what's the one that Facebook's is Quest 2 Facebook?
Quest 2, but Facebook, I think they're in Oculus now. So
Oculus, that's what I was thinking of.
Rift.
Yeah,
Rift
Oculus.
has, and there's the HTC one, which has really cool graphics.
Yeah.
That's linked up to a laptop too, or computer even, not a laptop.
I mean, you can see future gaming is going to be mainly probably VR eventually, isn't it? Rather than
It'll be fully immersive. Excuse me.
Yes and no, lads. Not until if it was that big, it'd be big right now because all the arcades exist and stuff. But they're treated like a ball pit. It's got a few customers in. Like there's bowling alley's got a few customers in. Yeah, I think if it was that good, people would be doing it now. I don't think it's where it needs to be like a mass market, especially in your own home. But then, like I say, even going out to a place, these VR arcades aren't busy. They're not particularly rammed. They're not like people are flooding in because they want this massive. I don't even think there's a huge thing for a VR experience. I generally don't like it, so I can't see how all gaming could be VR in the future because I want to be playing gaming with a big telly in front of me for at least. I can't. Yeah, I'm not ready for that jump anytime soon.
Is that a generational thing? I think is that going to be my youngest kids? Are they going to get to our age and be like, I'm not interested in the next thing, I'm happy with my VR? Do you know what I mean? Like, it could be that things are moving that quick with tech. It's even progressing quicker than the next generation can come about.
But the VR we've got now, where you just sit on your living room sofa with a thing on your head, it's dead heavy on your neck and stuff, and then you've got these two controllers that you hold like this, and this is the future of gaming experience.
See, do you want me to tell you something? Do you want me to tell you where? And this might be PSVR that I'm talking about, but for me, I could imagine just sitting here with my controller, like I'm playing a normal game, but being in VR and being the character in VR, but watching essentially playing the game, but just
So your first person input using the controller.
And I'm sure that already is in the space, but I can imagine that more than the sitting here because even take it kind of back a generation technology wise to the Wii. We had some great times playing Zelda on the Wii and Smash Bros. But even that was very novelty. When we got bored of the Wii or when the PS4 come out, when the PS4 come out, we didn't sit there craving this. We were happy going back to controller, So it's kind of like I could imagine sitting here like we just started playing No Man's Sky, like you said. I can imagine sitting here and feeling immersed visually and being able to look around visually, but while still playing traditionally with a controller.
Yeah.
It's
been 15, 20 years that VR has been the future of gaming. It doesn't seem to be happening. That's all I'm saying.
Something's stunting.
Something. Everyone keeps having cracks at it, and I don't know. It's not really working.
How do you think gaming is as an industry? Because for a long time it's been the fastest growing industry, outpacing movies and even music and whatever. Do teenagers today, do they embrace it the way that we did when we were teenagers? And I have no knowledge. Do they? I mean,
Twitch is huge.
Gaming.
there's a lot of people
Twitch is massive.
Gaming is big. I suppose it is just different sort of gaming. It is an unusual one. I don't know.
I don't know whether Twitch being massive is an indication of them embracing gaming or them engaging the next phase of reality TV. Yeah. Because do you see what I'm saying? Because
what's Fortnite 300, 400 million copies sold? Or is it free?
Yeah, Fortnite's
free,
big.
But you get the battle passes and stuff. It makes an absolute ton of money.
But I mean, only because I've had a couple of comments actually in a couple of YouTube videos. Been talking to someone about Fortnite because they were saying it's for them. Well, they were saying it's culturally hugely significant in gaming Fortnite, and my position was not for my generation. Like Fortnite to me is just something that kids and some adults with blue hair played for a little bit, and it was used as like an advert for some big events and that sort of stuff. But for a generation, for an age maybe 20 and below, Fortnite's the biggest game of all time.
It was different.
Fortnite's the biggest game on that's ever been. Fortnite is a phenomenon. The celebrities are on it. It's everything. It's transcended gaming. It's into. People talk about Fortnite. It's a thing like Pokemon maybe is for our generation, and Mario. It's just
that's very subjective, though. That's a very subjective thing, because even us being we're the same generation, aren't we? Even us being the same generation, Call of Duty was a big thing for you.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas for me, Call of Duty never really bit me, because I got the first wave of first-person shooters playing on PC when I was 15.
Yeah.
So for me, Call of Duty, no doubt Call of Duty was massive. It was what got people who thought that online gaming was for geeks and whatever. It got your regular guy, instead of just playing FIFA, he started playing first-person shooters. But I was playing first-person shooters 8 years earlier, 10 years earlier as a teenager. See what I'm saying?
No, 100%. I don't think it's because it just it was a first-person shooter. It's like I say, I don't think it is anyway. But for them, it is a cultural phenomenon. Fortnite, it's bigger. Like say, they had celebrities play on it, didn't they? And I can't even think who they are now. Like that Canadian rapper guy, didn't he play with Ninja and stuff? Like it's for us when our parents think of Pokemon, they think of Pikachu, like gaming and stuff. He was playing Pokemon and Pikachu. When their parents do, it's Fortnite. Are you gaming? Are you playing Fortnite? It's the game their parents sort of now think of when their kids mention gaming. So I found it fascinating when he was saying this, because mine was like, Fortnite's not relevant to gaming history at all. But for that generation, it does seem to be. Honestly, it seems to be a big thing. Like, for 400 million copies, that's huge, man.
Go on, Nick.
For me, it's like thinking back now compared to.
Just got the mic, Nick. Got the mic, mate.
For me, comparing technology now, I can remember when I was young, the Ataris, Spectrums, Commodore 64s, and you used to have to wait 2 hours for your game to sort of
You used
load
to have
up
those flashing screens.
And then you look at it now, and you just think to yourself, where's technology going?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But do you?
There's still retro gaming. People still love that. So I've still got that. Those all the stuff I've got. I still play Sega's Alex the Kid on my Sega and all sorts.
So while you don't think Fortnite is necessarily, it's not a cultural phenomenon for you, but you got to accept it's a cultural phenomenon, right?
This was the argument, I suppose. I've digested on it. I suppose it is for them, but my argument was it wasn't at first. Like I said, it seems it's a bit Mickey Mouse. It's a bit mainstream, I suppose. Gaming's gone mainstream now. I suppose this comes back to your first question. All these companies have gone a bit mainstream now. Blizzard and stuff is struggling to make games anyone likes, where for the last 10 or 20, 30 years, anything they made, everyone loved. Do you know what I mean? Like, think of all the game Fallout and all the issues of that. Like, it just seems like the gaming industry's fall from grace the last 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah, I think there's quite a clear reason for that as well. There's this nature of, obviously it's quite clear when you look into Cyberpunk failing as it did. No Man's Sky, you mentioned earlier before we started rolling that you played it when it first launched and it was a bit of a mess.
Yeah, Fallout 76.
But that's all down to these investors.
76 got great as well.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of these AAA games of failing. You know what I mean? There's a lot of. It seems to be the companies that are coming from. I think one of the biggest games on Twitch right now is a £3 game called Vampire Survivor, and that seems to be like a massive game. I think it's one guy's made this in his basement and stuff like that. Well, you got that game you guys were playing on the other month, the Four Guys. That went really big and stuff like these. It seems to be the bigger games that are coming through and not known necessarily developers and all this sort of stuff. It's brand new. The gaming industry that has been there for 20, 30 years, it seems to have gone off the cliff a little bit for me.
Do you think it's people rushing to get new games out? Comparing, obviously, with other
exactly what I was going to say. It's down to the developers. I feel like developers are getting a hell of pressure on from the investors and people that won't release the game ASAP. You spent too much money on developing the game. We need to get it out. We need to pull some of those costs back into the business because we're going to start new projects. Investors won't be happy that you're taking another 6 months, putting the game back further. Suddenly, the developers working 18-hour days probably not got the benefits they deserve, so aren't particularly productive, overlook very simple things that break the game. And when it's launched on day one, let's rush and get an update file because the people who've had it for the first 6 hours are pretty pissed off. And it just seems like ways that the indie developers in the next 10 years are probably going to be in pretty well-paying jobs because they're going the right way around looking what the consumer wants rather than what these people who are investing in the company are wanting that money.
Is it? I mean, there's nothing wrong with money. Like, you need money to reinvest and to make good games. Right? Is it possible to make is it possible to make a AAA game that's complete nowadays? Like, with how detailed games are, is it possible for £60 as well? That's something. Yeah, they could develop it for 10 years. Grand Theft Auto haven't brought a game out for the last 2 consoles. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but how much is their game going to be when it comes out? The truth is, they could afford charge us £40, £50, £60 because how much they've made on sales on Grand Theft Auto 5 Online and stuff like. Well, if they hadn't had all that money they've made on Grand Theft Auto Online, all the millions they've made of that, and they'd spent the last 10 years developing their new game, they've run up a big bill, and that would have cost a lot of money to buy that game then. Like, and is people are they going to pay £100 for a game? Are they going to pay 150 quid for a game? Is that the reality of what games might need to cost if you want a perfect game on release in 3 or 4 years?
And your investors drop out because they're not getting any return.
No. So I think to put closure on the question that I gave, I think now kids are just as into gaming, but an interesting shift that I've seen, and it kind of ties into what you're saying about the AAA games. I feel like there's an emphasis back on gameplay and fun, away from
gaming.
And communal gaming,
group games, people sharing.
And I think that's part of the problem why AAA studios have struggled in a lot of ways, is because the kind of people that are interested in those AAA games want the highest standards, and when they don't deliver for whatever reason, it really makes the game flop. When in reality, I consider myself a pretty casual gamer, and it's rare that I'll play a game and regret buying it. Like, there's people that I see that complain about it dropping frames and it's not 60 frames per second. I'm like, I can't tell you what this game's frame rate is right now.
Yeah.
Like, I have no interest. Yeah. So for me, that getting back to when you think about what got us into gaming in the first place, and the level of gameplay, because it didn't have the graphics, it didn't have necessarily a strong storyline. No. When I was playing Bomberman, you ran around the screen trying to blow up the other person. Done. There wasn't any major criticisms you could have, really.
That's some of the best games ever, though, on there.
Yeah.
Strengthens your point.
Yeah. That got a bit heavy quick. You guys think aliens exist?
Well, they obviously do. It's just...
Why, obviously?
Because we exist.
Oh man, why did I just go from one really heavy topic straight into another really heavy topic?
I've
filter those into each other.
Well, no, you've seen the films as well, to be fair. They're on the films.
Yeah, they're not documentaries, though.
He's lying to you.
Independence Day was a documentary.
Well, no, they will. It's just that's a time and space argument. And the universe has only existed for 14.1 billion years, but because of how it's stretching now, there's galaxies 33 billion light years away. So there's so much time and space. There will be things. It's ever seen, and it's a whole different concept. Because they're getting further and further away. It's becoming less likely every day. In some
it's a totally different question. It is.
Yeah, no, it is. I don't even think the conversation can. Yeah, it's a very redundant conversation in a weird sort of way. In a weird sort of way.
It's kind of a numbers game. If we exist, something else does.
Yeah.
Just because of the pure...
In the past, it has in the future. Weirdly enough's out there somewhere. We just haven't seen it yet. You know what I mean? We'll see it in the future because we'll get there, but it's always happened.
So do you think...
happened, it's just when.
Do you think that, aliens have been to this planet, we're in contact with, they live amongst us, we're aware of them? What do you think about that? Daryl?
Interdimensional travel.
Yeah.
Straight to interdimensional travel.
Well, I mean, that's exactly. It's not like anyone called it or anything, but I went about a bit of a roll last few years. I felt like I was talking about COVID before it could become a big thing, and then we were talking that the Americans were going to sort of release information and saying that there is UFOs and stuff.
We've been expecting disclosure for 10 years.
We were told sort of April in that year, and it ended up being May sort of that year that the American government released that stuff for the Tic Tac UFOs, the sort of pyramids and that. So at least governments have started legitimising the idea as this craft out there that are not under control of any governments, well, in their opinion. You know what I mean? So so something's going on. Definitely, if the footage is to believed and the testimony is to believed, the Tic Tac craft aren't human. I don't think the Russians or the Chinese have invented technology that can do that yet.
No,
or the Americans. Not what it's doing. I mean, they're working on some really crazy stuff, and they're building little suns and stuff, and they've got them nuclear ones that can sort of glide into some space and you fire up. We're working on some crazy tech that the whole world is, but that Tic Tac,
too far.
Yeah, that Tic Tac. It's
too advanced.
windowless, it's wingless, it's exhaustless, it's
source of propulsionless.
It's a Tic Tac floating in the sky, man. So much going on.
Do you think anti-gravity technology is possible? And I know it's super difficult to say that because, you know, in the 1800s they wouldn't have thought that mobile phones would be possible. So it's really difficult to.
I'm sure they'll figure out a way of controlling gravitational.
What do you think? What do you think anti-gravity technology would do to the world today? Can you imagine if it was developed today and it became available for commercial use or even private use?
Yeah, man. It's hard even to imagine. To be fair, straight away because it opens up all the doors at once. That is quite a big leap. It can go from transporting oil and food and stuff, resources around the world a lot quicker. Do you know what I mean? Instantly with no cost. You can go and travel to the Pluto and back is possible on that day as well. Like,
do you think
a lot of things become possible that day?
Do you think, say, anti-gravity becomes available tomorrow? How long do you think nation states could exist?
This is what I mean. It's fundamental. Yeah, it'd be a weird sort of time
because essentially you could live in Africa and commute to London.
It wouldn't. Yeah.
So would nation states be relevant anymore?
You go solar that day. You go galactic that day. Like, but it's the politics of it. It's people might not want to agree to that. They're like, no, I want to have our country. We want to keep our borders forever. But that day, no, you do go. You're a solar system wide society. You can visit the moon. You can start building stuff on the moon that day if you've got anti-gravity. You can start building.
You think?
Well, yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
It's the.
Okay, let me rephrase. Why do you think having the ability, having anti-gravity technology cuts down? I mean, you'd still have travel times.
Yeah, but with anti-gravity, that it's not a time. To be fair, like this, it's more likely you could move things and people could potentially die being moved under that sort of speed. But things could be.
Do you think
really
anti-gravity would?
If my understanding of anti-gravity,
sure.
I'm way above my pay grade. Anyway, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, who's to say any of this is right? But do you think it would be almost in portal tech realm, kind of interdimensional? Not because you're still traveling within one dimension.
Yeah.
But do you think it would be more like teleporting than transporting?
I know you mean maybe speed wise, but not feeling wise. That's like two consistent things, and you put one thing and then another thing. So no, it wouldn't feel the same as that. It would feel like you're getting on to a thing that goes really quick to another place. So it wouldn't. I don't think it'd feel like teleportation in that respect, because I think teleportation is a non-moving object that you enter and then you come out of another non-moving object. Yeah, is that like a fair definition of teleporting? I don't know. I mean, you could move forward, I suppose, in like the DeLorean, and you go through time. And then you're moving, but then as well, you're going out of time and space. No, it's a weird one. Yeah, it's like you get into a craft to moving really fast, and you just,
what were you saying, Nick?
Wouldn't it be great? Thinking about it, the old telephone red boxes that we used to have.
Yeah.
Just go in one of them, put in your little coordinate where you want to go.
Perfect.
What
do you mean, like Doctor Who?
Yeah, you talk.
Yeah, it's basically got.
I would probably travel internationally if that was the case. I don't like travelling. if it was a telephone box little anti, but then that's a teleporter more than anything anti-gravity. I don't know, unless you've got like a tube system underneath, a pipe system. But like I say, that speed should kill people. What that Tic Tac goes at and stuff.
Wonder if you were if you're in that Tic Tac. I wonder if you okay. But if you're on a plane and the plane's travelling 500 mile an hour, that should also kill you. So if you're in a pressurised container...
This is
So say you were in a pressurised container and that container was being fired across the universe at however many thousand whatevers, would you feel that?
It depends how that works, how the technology works. If it's like a gravity machine where it's closing gravity in front of you and pushing it at the back of you, so you're sort of being pulled forward basically at faster and faster speeds, or it depends how the technology is working, I suppose. Do you
think there are aliens?
Or you're in more like a bubble and you're inside the sort of, so the thing's moving at ridiculous speeds, but you're just sat there like nothing's happening inside. I don't know how that would work.
Do you think there are aliens in that Tic Tac? Or do you think it would be a drone?
No. He could well just be an alien drone or a drone. I still don't think he's been. My honest opinion of what I actually do think it maybe is. If I had to put money on it, and I'm well aware I could be wrong, I do honestly think it's us in the future. I think it's stuff that we've sent back or we've left here, and I think I generally do. I don't think it's because we never see any of these things come from outside. We never see it entering our atmosphere. Like on the films, the spaceship's coming. It's coming past the moon. It's coming past the next planet, and then it's here, and it enters the atmosphere. They're already here. They see them come out the sea. They come out of mountains and stuff like. So if it isn't the governments that are already here, it's people it's aliens that have been here before and they live underground or something, or it's humans.
Similar to interdimensional travel's my main shout, because like Wade's just said, we don't see objects coming from space, even low orbit. We don't, and if we do see it, it's generally a satellite. But there's so many stories, there's videos, there's lights in the waters. You look at these old wives' tales of people in the lakes, lights in the lakes. Everything can be tied back to that theory when it comes to the way we've seen aliens in space since the dawn of time. But my biggest thing is my lack of understanding about anti-gravity. When you ask the question about how it would work with people inside, my understanding, if I'm right, I'll be astonished, but normal flight for a rocket out of our atmosphere and into low orbit, into space, it can only go at the speed. Your engines propel it at a speed, and that speed will have to be consistent because there's nothing in space preventing, no friction, no gravity to stop it, unless it comes in contact with a different planet. Whereas an anti-gravity spaceship, like the Tic Tac that we see do crazy speeds that's just not capable for us at this time, if that's in space, it's moving matter around it, so it can move in any direction, at any space, and any speed that it desires, because it's not restricted by anything. It isn't even restricted by dark matter, which makes the basically what space is. There's nothing.
Issue.
From my understanding,
they assume.
because it's still a theory, but
it moves.
Which would make
in the atmosphere like
travel
the atmosphere.
instantaneous. It could be
anywhere. So in the sea, it would move the same in the space, in the sky, in the sea, because it doesn't matter. There's no resistance.
It's going completely through space and time.
But like I say, I don't know. I think a lot of the issue people think why they say if it was a human inside, it'd be struggling as well. It's not necessarily the speed it's going; it's the G-force turns as well. So it's all well and good you being in a nice little bubble that's going in one direction a lot faster than maybe you should be able to, and you're in that bubble, but then it's doing a right neck turn, bam, and the G-force is on your gut. You're still sat there and you're going one way, then you're going that way, and you can get torn apart. And that's why they do that training where they fly around the machines for it. So I think it's the G-forces as well as the speed.
That's a risk, you say.
Yeah, I think that's one of the issues why you can't. Humans shouldn't be allowed to survive that craft.
But if you have developed anti-gravity technology, would you be subjected to any G's? Because
they might not, but we would.
Honestly, it depends on the craft. There could be two craft as far as I'm aware. Like saying that one would be the craft would be like an airplane or a rocket ship, and there'd be a device on the front, maybe a device on the back, and like say on the front it's he's making a sort of a black hole, and he's getting less gravity, so you're being pulled forward, and on the back machine is actually creating gravity, so it's pushing you, so you're being pushed and sucked in, and that'll go forward. From my understanding, would be anyone in that craft would be affected by the movements of that craft. But there's also where you can create anti-gravity that's sort of a bubble. I'm sure you can create like I'd have to look on the internet, it's like a bubble or a ball sort of shape around the craft you're in, and then maybe if you're inside that bubble, you're not affected by any of the G-forces and any of the speed.
That's the kind of thing that I was thinking, because you'd be outside of gravity.
Yes.
Because it's more than anti-gravity. It would be kind of control of where gravity exists.
It's time and space. When you control gravity, you're controlling time and space. Man.
I suppose if like an astrophysicist explaining it to us who had serious scientific knowledge, they would probably say that it kind of like it would almost be interdimensional travel, because you'd be operating on the dimension that gravity exists, as opposed to manipulating gravity in our dimension.
Yeah.
In theory, by its own definition, it'd be interdimensional because you're going between dimensions. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, gravity isn't necessarily. It's quite a relatively weak force. It's not. It has a lot. It's strong, universal. But there's, out of all the forces of nature, it's not particularly even the strongest of all the forces. It's quite weak. It's more of a constant, a dull constant, and it's just because size. It's just when you get so big, it's like then gravity kicks in. It's not particularly a strong force. We can beat gravity. You can jump up and down. Gravity's not a strong force.
Yeah. Do you think we'll get to a point where we actually find out gravity doesn't exist, and like what we observe,
maybe as we understand it,
what we observe as gravity are actually the effects of a completely different set of, I don't know, physics.
Laws of forces.
Yeah,
I'll be honest with you, there was a lot. They were pretty sure about a lot of things even 10 years ago. And I think, from my understanding, the scientific community's gone a bit. They're not sure. The last 10 years, all things like cans of worms have been opened up with, and they've got really down into sort of smaller and smaller, like quantum mechanics as well as other things like. And then there's a lot of tests being done that are breaking a lot of. Just my understanding when I do look at stuff now is they're just not as sure with that sort of stuff anymore. What's inside a black hole, what all this sort of stuff. Maybe when they thought they were a bit more sure about things a few years ago.
It's always theory. And what do you guys make of the particle colliders that they're putting? They're running at the moment. They've set one up again this year, haven't they? So with the original one,
the Large Hadron.
So all the weird stuff should start happening again.
That's what I mean. Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Multiverses.
I'm definitely not going to be jumping down conspiracy theories about it, but.
Okay.
We've always had strange times.
Do you think they create some Mandela effects?
I was going that way, yeah.
Okay. Let's instead of going so broad,
it is quite deep
because that's a
big subject.
That's as many. Well, interestingly, parallel universes. That's as many different conversations as you might take them. So let's take into one of them. Do you think that we're still in the same timeline that we were 5 years ago? Do you think that we're, if you imagine life as we know it existing on the timeline and it can branch off, do you think that we're still on the main timeline, or do you think we've branched off and the timeline that we used to live in 5 years ago is happening somewhere else?
I think this is one of them things that is what we've just been talking about, to be fair, where they're not even sure anymore. Like, there's that double split experiment in there, and it seems to sort of maybe change the way it acts when it's being witnessed and all that sort of stuff. And
what do you think then?
It does almost seem like every eventuality is being played out, and it's not until the eventuality that eventually is played out, all the other sort of eventualities collapse in on themselves. That's what it seems to happen. If I understand that sort of test correctly, there isn't a constant, there isn't a grand timeline, and all these do actually exist, and they're all actually existing at all times. Once all them possibilities are always possible until the possibility which is decided, then all them collapse in on themselves. Do you know what I mean? Them possibilities aren't.
So what you're saying is that basically time and space is the Hunger Games, and only one's going to survive.
Well, yeah, because the past doesn't really exist almost. Because as soon as you're always falling into the forward. Almost, you could argue the present doesn't exist. The present never gets a chance to exist, because as soon as it's the present, it's the future again. Like, it's the past. You're in the future again. Yeah. So we're constantly, obviously, what is it? Can't think of the word for time. Constantly going for entropy and stuff like. So we're free falling into the future constantly. We can never stay in the past. So the past and the present, it's like the future exists more than any of these things.
You can never tie Wade down to an answer.
Yeah, no.
So
make
fantastic politician.
So are we on the main timeline, or have we branched off?
That's what see. This is
imagine like. Do you think it's okay? Let me reframe it.
Do you think something caused a branch in this out? Because there's that conspiracy, obviously, with Trump and Brexit and all that sort. And that 2016 and the Hadron Collider. We have got a bit of a.
Well, that's what I was thinking when you said about turning on the Hadron Collider again.
Yeah.
And creating multiverses and that's a.
Because we have had a Madden since.
Do you think? Okay. Maybe it's just a geopolitical thing, and like we kind of went through a really tame period. Yeah. And I'm not saying worldwide, because shit was still going on.
Oh, it always is.
Yeah. It always felt like it was going on somewhere else, though. Don't you feel like in the last 10 years, it feels like our chickens have come home to roost.
No, in many ways. But you go back to 2001. Really, I think the Twin Towers was something you just randomly bring up. Like that was a turning point mentally for like 7 billion people on the planet. From ways we didn't even realize back then. Like, well, that was a big moment in sort of human evolution, almost. Like, I mean, most people. When they were going into Afghanistan and they were talking about it and they were asking sort of people about it and they sort of knew it happened, but they didn't see, obviously it's nothing to do with them, it's Saudi Arabian people and stuff like, so they were asking sort of Afghanistans when they're going in about it and they'd heard about it and they'd maybe seen pictures and they thought it was horrible, but they had nothing to do with it. Like, well, people were having a war in their country for 20 years over it, so that's just that thing just had such crazy ramifications. I do think it changed the world, man, and everything's, because I'm not saying the 90s were perfect, but I don't know. The 90s didn't seem to happen too much, did they? I can't think it. You had 2001, then you had terrorist attacks 2005, financial crisis 2008, and then you got COVID and everything. It's been a mad 20 years.
Yeah.
It's been we've gone a bit of a snowball since the 90s.
Yeah. Okay, I'm trying to tie that back into what we were talking about because it is relevant for Canada last time.
Timelines and stuff like it.
Yeah. So, Darryl, help me out. What do you think? Do you think we're on the same timeline, or do you think we've branched off into kind of a more extreme version of what should be happening? That's the point I'm trying to make.
Man.
Is what's going on part of what should be happening, or have we branched off into an experimental? Okay, so say you're watching Family Guy, but then on the multiverse episode they're showing you a version where everybody's face is upside down, or The Simpsons where they show you that rain is actually donuts.
Yeah.
Are we in canon, or have we branched off into something that's not canon?
I think that makes more sense if it's like a simulation or something. If reality is real, then no, I don't think so, because I think there's just the finite timeline. I think eventualities can happen. Someone can get voted in that can then start a world war, and so I don't necessarily think that the future's predetermined. But if you're on about it being a weird 20 years and the reason for that, that's more of a simulation thing for me.
Yeah,
if someone's changed the settings on the simulation a little bit.
We'll do simulation another time, because that's a whole thing in itself.
It's quite clear what Wade is just pretty much answering my question as I was going to. Because if you look at the last 20 years, and you're quite right, Wade, the last 20 years have been a shit show for a lot of places in the world, but it was our turn. The probability is the actions of our governments and the actions of
Nick hissing.
I'm not trying to be, definitely don't want to get too political, but every government's pretty malicious in its own nature.
Everyone's a hypocrite.
Yeah. So we really have been waiting a while for this to happen to us, and things have started knocking on our door with the price things going up and all of the stuff that's happened. So the probability is, over the last 100 years, we were going to get a turn. We were going to get a turn up. But these aren't even hard times for us. That's the craziest thing.
And I do think this is all.
I'm not undermining what you were saying there.
Yeah.
But the point is, I'm trying to bring the perspective of the 60s to the 80s was probably difficult in its own right, with certain things happening. 80s to the year 2000 was probably difficult in its own right, but I can only relate to the stuff that's happened to me in my adult life because it's most relevant to me. But that's not particularly my belief. I just think that's the most likely outcome. My belief is that there is more about the simulation theory than people are giving it credit for, but that's another conversation.
Yeah. Okay, then let's stick with the timeline kind of theme, because as the proposed nature of what I'm saying, we're diverging as much as the timeline that I'm proposing. God damn,
so that was
a roundabout way. Okay, so Trump getting elected we obviously have lived through Trump becoming president of America. Do you think that we also lived through Trump not getting elected?
No.
But we're not. But we wouldn't know, because we're not living on that timeline. Do you think that happened? Do you think that's how reality works? Do you think that every decision, every outcome is played out in its own reality?
This is it. I don't think it's played out. I think they're all possibilities until they're not. So imagine in any one moment, obviously you can't even break it down into the millisecond of the present, but every eventuality is all possible at that point. That timeline could splinter off into all them infinite possibilities. But as soon as them decisions are made by the 7 billion people, the stars in the sky, everything, the gravity of it, as soon as all them things make their move that millisecond, that's locked in then, and all the eventualities that didn't play
just
out
disappear.
Are collapsing on themselves. What they collapse in on it's not just disappear. Like I say, I think it's a function. All the possibilities don't exist. All the possibilities they don't. You chose that one. The rest don't exist. I think it is quite linked to that, almost like a double split experiment. Where, if I understand it correctly, it's almost like it could hit the back of that board any time until you sort of look at it, and when you sort of look at it, it tells you how it acted.
I'm going to look into that. It looks really interesting. I've never heard of that before.
The double split.
Yeah, I'm
definitely
check it
out. It's how the particles are acting like waves or particles, and just doing different when you sort of But sometimes you can trick it into going through a few mirrors, so then you get one answer and see if you get a different answer. It plays out after. There's more to it that I don't understand.
See, I think I disagree.
Do you think that's what? Do you think it does, or do you think everything is playing out all the time, every single possibilities? Because that's more like a multiverse, but that's a multiverse of time. But that's not necessarily multiverses. That's multi-timelines within this one universe. Multiverse can be a whole different thing. Because multiverse is then every universe has got its own timeline. You're on about just infinite timelines. I
think I like infinite timelines, but then every timeline would have infinite timelines again. So it's that kind of thing of whether infinity exists, you know.
Well, that's interesting.
And how you define infinity.
That's infinity within one bubble, though, not infinite bubbles. So if you want to break it down,
that's what I'm saying, though.
That's interesting.
That's what I'm saying. Infinite bubbles and infinite within the bubbles.
See, infinite bubbles is a multiverse, though. That's why I'm trying to break it down into really just so everyone, you know what I mean. Even anyone if they're watching, like, do you know what I mean? So
that's
the concept if they're watching,
confidence,
so the concept of multiple universes would be loads of bubbles, but the multiple timelines would all be still within that one bubble.
Sure.
You don't need multiple bubbles for multiple timelines.
What do you think, Nick?
For me, I think things are planned out for you. So from day one that you were born to the day that you die, your life is planned out for you.
What's that called?
Are you a religious man?
It's called comfort.
No, not religious man. I
think so.
No, what's the name for that though? When you believe in. Oh, I was reading about this the other day.
Fate.
God damn, it is kind of like fate, but it's
quite a religious.
It's a concept as well. There's a concept of it might even just be fatism or something. But carry on, Nick.
I always believe, like, as one door closes, many more open.
But do you think you can pick any of them doors?
I think your journey's planned for you. Right. You just don't know when that's going to happen to you. And then you probably think to yourself, oh, life shit, blah, 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 and then all of a sudden something will happen and then way off on your path again and you pick yourself back up again.
See, I like that because I know for a fact Wade completely disagrees with that, and I'm not sure whether Daryl does, and I completely disagree with that.
I like the comfort of it.
It's very religious, like say predeterminism, I suppose.
Predeterminism. Predeterminism. Is that what it is? No, that's the word I was just trying to get. I knew you knew it. You know everything.
It is. You know what I mean? It's an interesting one. Do you know what I mean? He sort of does that. Do you think that's quite depressing? No,
and the reasons why I think that is.
And who's predetermined it?
That was what I was going to ask.
It's a good. Yeah,
you don't need a being. You don't have to say, God, I'm not trying to trick you. Is it just predetermined?
I'm not religious whatsoever. I just think through life, as you get older, you get more wiser.
Yeah.
Prime example, I used to have friends who I thought were friends, and then I have you guys now that
the bros
are like brothers to me. You know what I mean? And I just think to myself, God, if I actually met you guys sooner, what a better life I would have had.
Yeah.
You wouldn't have liked Steve 10 years ago.
But
you were 10 years ago, is he?
I don't know. I just think that sometimes it is your life planned out for you. I mean, obviously you don't know about it, what's going to happen. But as you get older and go through life, have you chosen that journey? You know, from start to finish.
I mean, I don't disagree as much as maybe you think. Like I say, it's a possibility, it's a probability thing. I mean, I don't think it's. I suppose the path you end up choosing is potentially predetermined just because of how time and like I say, time. My theory of how this sort of works. All them eventualities are thought out. The way I sort of think about it is sometimes you know, when you feel like you tell the future, and it happens to me maybe more than some people. I don't know why, but we've had these conversations where I do sort of say something. So it's little things, silly things sometimes, but I don't think you're actually telling the future. I think it's just you've just gone through all the eventualities and you've picked the right one. Do you know what I mean? That's all it is. I don't think you don't know the future.
But I also
just understand all the possibilities and you've figured out that's the most likely.
Most likely. That's what I was going to say. It's not like you can have a guess at what might happen. But when you can almost see, I always felt like I could almost see the variables not in a lot of situations, but in certain situations, I felt like it was very easy to pick out the variables of what could change and then how likely each one of those changes was. And if you can isolate those variables, you can pretty much figure out what's going to happen next. You know, and it kept me safe for a long time. And even though there were a lot of things that I could have done differently, the worst possible outcome was always avoided because of that ability. You know,
it's interesting. It can be hard doing real life because maybe how many possibilities there is, and how slow moving life can be to some degree. But I mean, everyone can know it's a fact, and you'll know definitely from sport. You see the punch coming sometimes. Like you see, you know, you must have been boxing before, and you've seen this muscle twitch, and you've seen the punch coming at you. So you've already dodged that. You know, so that's the same thing. It's just on a more intense, shorter frame. Isn't it? Like you're seeing all the eventualities, all the possibilities.
It's a good example. I'm not sure whether it applies to me because I don't know if I ever dodged a punch in my life. I was just good at getting punched. No. I was just good at getting punched.
But you know what I mean? Like, you see that, like sportsmen must they tell the future. In the moment, that's why they meg the player because they haven't seen his foot move yet, but they know his foot's going to move in that to this spot here. So they put the ball through the. You know what I mean? They're seeing all the possibilities, they're seeing all the eventualities. They're guessing the right. So that's the way. So for so all these things are always there, but actually I do think they collapse in the ones once it's not been picked. The past doesn't exist. The past, and that sounds silly, like, but the past doesn't exist.
Okay, so
that's why we have remnants to sort of remind us. Because if it wasn't for them remnants, they definitely wouldn't exist. They don't exist.
That theory that the theory that the universe is always expanding, but then that it could get to a point where it starts contracting. So I don't know if it's a real theory, but it's kind of a theory that time would play backwards.
Yeah.
But if that was the case, okay, bear with me because it's kind of paradoxical. Paradoxical? Yeah, that's a word, right? Paradoxical. So if that was the case and it started contracting and time went backwards, it would eventually start to expand again. Now, if it was expanding for a second time, forget where it started because that's where the paradox comes in. If it's expanding for a second time, then time has already happened. So you are following a predetermined path because you're expanding for the second time.
Okay, I'm with you. Yeah, I get that.
I mean,
see what I mean?
I get that.
Now the paradox comes.
What laws of physics are dictating that second expansion has to follow the path of the first expansion?
Yeah. Do you think when it collapsed back to a singularity, it would start again?
I mean, that isn't necessarily the accepted worldview of how that works. But if it was, do you know what I mean? You go through the background radiation again, and then you'd have hotter spots and denser spots, and that could potentially decide how a universe is structured, and then that structure could decide the laws of physics in that universe. So the second time it come round, it's a theory. It's not necessarily one that's widely accepted, but it's a theory that's how it works. The big crunch and all that, and the expansion. But it could be a new universe every time.
Interjecting with something that I'm sure we've all been high to the point where we've had these thoughts and forgot about them once we woke up, but there was one occasion, and bear in mind this isn't my belief particularly, but I think it's really interesting. I was super baked, and I thought if I don't write this down I'm going to forget, so I wrote it all down in this notepad, and the next day when I came to look at it, it's pretty poorly written, but it was
just pictures of
pictures of me
monkeys having sex.
That was the second page. So the concept was, as I understand it, and reading it on this notepad gave me a bit of a memory of what I was thinking when I wrote it. So, cataclysmic event. Okay, let's say, for example, and don't hold me to this, pick out a year, 2006. Okay. We lived our lives normally, all of us, across the world, 6 billion people at that point. Up until 2006, it was a cataclysmic event. Now, when it's been scientifically suggested, and I'll say almost proven because nothing's certain, that when the brain shuts down, it's starved of oxygen. So these visions of a light and visions of going to the light of family members all waving. This is your brain creating a softer blow to death, to cease to exist. Does that make sense? Now, what if, and bear stay with me, Carl Jung speaks of the universal consciousness. Now, you've really got to give a bit of rope to this and follow it. So, as a universal consciousness, all of us, we've got universal knowledge from life experience. Once we pass away into the dirt, we're dead. But something, no one can explain the soul or the spirit, something falls into universal consciousness. Now, let's just stick with that and say that's possible for a moment. If we all die at exactly the same point, and those brains are shut off at a point where there's literally no way of creating that soft blow to death. Soft blow to death. What's to say that everything we're experiencing now, every memory, every action, every consequence, is a programmed reality to soften the blow to death? So when the time comes where we do actually die, the consciousness can settle, and the consciousness can be relieved of expectations of reality. Does that make sense? So, and I've written that, and I've thought about it since, and I thought it's probably not plausible, but man, anything's theoretically possible.
Okay. Nick, how much time? How much time's gone?
We're on 56 minutes.
Well, 56 minutes, so we're nearly an hour. Well, it looks like we're running for an hour then. Okay, let's just take this. Just to end. Let's deconstruct this, see if I understand it properly. We've got about 4 minutes. Have you got a good grasp on it? Because I felt like there was something good there. But
no.
So if the whole world was wiped out at once, are you saying that we knew it was coming? Or are you saying
it might not be relevant, that part, to be fair?
Well, the thing is, though, if you're saying, is the point that you're making that if we all died at the same time, then because of universal, suddenly is what's messing us up for me. So let me see if I'm getting the concept first. If everybody died at the same time, then the universal consciousness? The universal consciousness would still exist, and so potentially what we're living now is us being prepared to die. It's
a natural end that because there'd be no environment for us to be in. We'd literally be whatever it is, a universal consciousness, a soul. It'd cease to exist, because when I spoke about suddenly dying, all of us, you're talking about something that we just can't see coming, like a black hole, for example.
Just appears in the middle of the planet.
Or in these underground laboratories in Switzerland, they managed to isolate and create dark matter, which just creates a black hole, which then absorbs the Earth. We wouldn't know about it. It just happened.
You make soon sound like like the League of
it is funny, but
what they called in the Avengers, the bad guys,
Hydra.
So let's just say they made a mistake and something happened.
I do. Give the mini black holes with the CERN though. I don't know.
There's got to be something, mate. There's something they're messing with.
But onto your thing, I suppose it just sounded like the rapture.
Yeah.
So it's mad how, like I say, it's weird how many scientific things and sort of concepts that people play out have got a lot of religious sort of things to them as well. They're a little bit, the minis as well. But that does sound just like the rapture though. So if everyone just floats off into a sort of consciousness,
in a way,
semi sort of purgatory, all at the same time. Like, that's the issue with it. How do we test to see if we are or aren't in that? That's a good point.
Yeah, I think what I'm struggling with is if it was sudden, then our brains wouldn't be able to prepare ourselves for death and potentially upload to the universal consciousness. If everybody saw an asteroid coming and it was going to wipe us all out at the same time, then maybe our brains would have a chance to upload to the universal consciousness, in which case this could be happening in those final moments of our brain.
Quite possibly.
Am I on the right track?
I think you are, because if someone puts a gun to your head, right, for example, you'd probably knock a gun out my hand by the time I managed to pull the trigger.
It'll be like one of those TikToks where you watch the video and then you try and do it and you like wake up in heaven like, god damn.
Someone had a gun to your head, to the back of your head, and all you felt was the gun, and then you're gone. Your brain hasn't got the time to give that nice little peaceful send-off that you would have. But arguably...
So you don't always get that.
Of course, we don't. But people who've been to the edge and come back, who've been brought back to life, say that they see these things, and you don't know where the time truth.
Yeah, but I think a lot of that.
There's a lot of speculation, but
there's the whole DMT thing about your brain creates DMT in your last moments.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
there was a research, and I can't remember the results actually when it got mentioned. Was people I'm sure they were trying to artificially. They were putting like letters on the top of bookshelves in like rooms where people would pass away and then get brought back to life. And then if they claimed that they were floating above their own bodies, like they would ask, like, "Did you see anything on top of the shelves that you can't see now? Like, and see any letters?" And I can't actually remember the results of that. But
it'd be interesting to check out.
See if how many people were accurate on.
What are you saying?
Floating above their own body after death.
That's actually that's something that. Tell you what, let's end it there.
Yeah, okay.
Because I'd like to revisit this idea of this idea of
I don't know what you call it.
yeah, I don't know quite how to define the subject that we're on. Okay, let's call it. Next time we'll talk about, and I'll make a note of this for next time. Out of body experiences. Oh, geez, guys.
Like a collective consciousness.
Universal consciousness. The concept of that in general, I suppose.
Yeah.
Because there's some things
I'll tell you what we'll do.
But there's not a lot of...
Before next time, we'll define what it is that we were ending on. A lot of fun, guys. Quite like this. Like and subscribe. We're going to be back. We're going to be doing this once a month. Check out at SkuberFacts on Twitter to find all of our shows. We're going to have a few different shows, potentially in a few different locations. I'm not going to push traffic to anywhere in particular other than YouTube, because I feel like that is kind of against what the YouTube overlords are looking for. So check out at SkuberFacts Twitter and find out where our different shows are. We're going to be back next month. We're going to be talking about some other stuff. Maybe we'll find a few different angles. We're going to be finding our feet for the first few episodes. And this is... Not only is this us trying to be popular making content, because anybody that says that's not the goal is lying. The whole point is to do this and do it well and get people wanting to watch. But a secondary reason for doing this is, as men, particularly men approaching middle-agedom, it becomes increasingly difficult to have a social life, especially for people like us who aren't necessarily interested in going out and getting hammered and chasing girls.
We actually have jobs as well, though.
Yeah, we've got jobs, we've got lives, we've got children, we've got different. So this is nice to get together once a month and to chat shit about stuff and to just have a reason. Because before you know it, 6 months passed and you're not even seeing your best friend in real life, which is probably pretty accurate. It's probably been 6 months since I've seen you. You know, it's probably... I mean, Gaz came down for Autumn's birthday party, and it's probably... outside of that, it's probably 6 months since I've seen him. Do you know what I mean? I'd love Gaz to come down and chat with us one time. But we're just here, we're chatting, and if we find people who want to listen to us talk about semi-nonsensical topics, then I'm up for it. I'm not going to be doing a lot of editing. I feel like we're just going to roll it as it is. What are we at, Nick? About an hour?
An hour and 2 minutes.
An hour and 2 minutes. I'm happy with an hour and 2 minutes. Guys, anything you want to add before you close? If you want to push people to your social medias, Wadey, I wouldn't recommend it.
No, nothing.
Anybody got anything to add?
I'm all good. I've enjoyed it, though.
Band?
Oh yeah, we've got the Easies. Go check out the Easies band. I'm in, sing and play bass. New music dropping soon, so yeah.
So
head over there.
I'll put a link to Daryl's band in the description. Nick, anything to add, mate?
No, I'm just waiting for next month. No, can't wait.
My band? You want to add my band onto it again? Just for extra exposure? I nearly forgot.
Wade, anything to add, buddy?
No, all good.
Yeah,
it's been fun, boys.
Great to see you guys, and we'll be back next month. Like and subscribe. See you guys.
Peace.